Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Rachel Klein, and I will be your presenter here today. Today, we are starting the first part in a two-part series that we're doing this week on reporting. So we're going to look at how to select particular people to show up on your report. So that's what we're going to be covering today, basically the step one screen. So this is going to be how you decide or how you input the information for who you need to see on the report. The layout itself, what you want the report to look like, and what information you want to see about the people that meet the report, that we'll talk about at our event tomorrow. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Current version of Church Windows is 25.23.2. The .2 was recently just released. So if you haven't updated to that, feel free to do so. You can find the update out on the website, or if you need the full install, I would have emailed that out to you as well if you're on support. Okay, let's go into membership. So the way I want to do this, cover this information is I want to go into reports here in the middle, and I want to just kind of go through and explain to you how each of these different fields work, and along with the different tabs across the top. And remember, today we're just going to stay here in the step one screen, but tomorrow we'll do the next and get to the step two. So step one, it's really about who you want to see on the report. It has nothing to do with what you want to see about these people. It has nothing to do with the layout of the report itself, whether you export it or generate a report. This is basically just who do you need to see, or what people do you need to appear on the report itself. So if you're talking to a support tech, a lot of times we'll ask, what's your query, or what's your criteria, or who do you need to see? And that way, as technicians, we can jump in and we can kind of help you think through how your data is set up and how to get the information out that you've put in. Okay. First tab it's going to open up to is the Query Builder tab. Step one is going to be the Edit People Selection Criteria. Step two is an and then step three, if you have the donations module, you can input some donations criteria there as well. Okay, so if we go up to step one and we click Edit People Selection, it's going to open up a new window. Now this new window is going to allow us to input different membership criteria. So where it says select a membership field, if I hit the down arrow, you're going to see all the different fields that you have available to query on. Okay, so you can query on your attendance. Say you want people who haven't attended, or say you want people who've attended a certain number of times within a particular date range. You could do that. Groups and classes criteria, if you want to look at people who've attended a Bible study or kids in a Sunday school class. Skills and interests, this is going to go over what skill or interest, time or talent that you have set up and assigned to people, and so forth. Now there's going to be a bunch of things in here. Definitely not enough time to cover everything, but a couple of the most commonly used criterias. Birth date. So that's going to be, I want someone who has a birthday within a particular month. You could also do people who have a birthday before or after a certain time frame if you want. Another popular one that I see, along with querying on an address if you need to, is going to be a gender. If you want to run a report on all your ladies in the church, you could use the gender field to do that. Okay. Another option is status code. I see that one a lot. You can do a status code down here at the bottom. And then you can check multiple if you want to, or just one. You also have the option to do a not. So if I want to see everyone that is not active, it would pull everyone that has one of these other fields that isn't checked or has a empty status field. Okay. You could also choose status code and leave it blank. And if I add that to the selection, I'm going to get a report of everybody who doesn't have a status code. So I know who those people are. And then I would be able to contact those people or fill in what their status code should be. Okay. So the possibilities in here are really endless for what you can use as your criteria. Over here to the right, if you use giver numbers, you also have some options to filter by giver number, those with or without, or you can choose a specific range, or say you have children's envelopes. You could choose this named range that you've created, and it'll only choose that range of envelopes. Categories. If you want to get rid of visitors quickly, come in here and just uncheck the visitors box. Then it's only going to pull people with a member category. Down here at the bottom, you can include inactive people if you want. Say you want to run a report on everybody who passed away last year. If that's the case, you need to check this inactive box because by default, those inactive people are omitted from reports. You can include your membership groups if you want to see them on a report. That would be your Sunday school classes, your Bible studies, things like that. If you use donations and you have created donations individual givers and donations group givers and you want them included on your report, you would need to check those as well. Okay? So this is your membership criteria. Then you have an and or an or. If you find you have membership criteria and giving criteria that people have to meet to be on the report, so they have to meet 1 and 2, then you need an and in this box. Okay? If you find you want someone to meet membership criteria or donations criteria, so they have to meet one or the other, then you can change this to an or. Okay? We'll leave it on and for now. All right, down here, if you have the donations module, a couple things are covered in here. If I click Add Giving Pledging Selection Criteria, it's going to allow me to filter in on either my giving and or, again, my pledging, okay? So if you only want people that gave, you would leave it on only those who gave. If you only want people who pledged, you could switch it down to only those who pledged, all right? And again, using the and or, you can use these together with an and, meaning they have to meet both criterias, or you can do an or, allowing them to meet one or the other, okay? If you don't use the donations module and you just simply want to report, don't change anything in here in number 3. Or if your report, you're not worried about anything involving giving. You do not need to change anything in number 3. Just pretend it's not there, put in your membership criteria, and move forward, okay? But if you do want to include some giving criteria, that is going to be done here. You have 4 different options for both giving and pledging, whether they pledged, whether they gave or pledged within a particular range, or if they did not pledge, or if they did not give. All of those options are available for you here. You can also adjust the date range. So if you want to filter on giving from the past, you can adjust your years, or you can go multiple years through if you wish, okay? Receive statement and gives with family. These aren't used too terribly often, but if you find you want to see who's given that doesn't have that receive statement box checked over in donations like they should, you could run an easy, quick report by changing these. I would say about 95% of the time, unless you have something very specific you're looking for, you are not going to change these and you're going to leave them on all, okay? There's also an easy way to adjust the date range here if you want to without having to go into the number 3 to do the date range here. Date range is in 2 places and they work together, okay? They are the same, just in 2 different locations. Use giver number current as of. Again, this allows you to change when the numbers are effective. So for example, if you're running a report at the end of the year and you want to know what people's giver numbers are for the first of the new year, you would then change this to the first of the new year so you could see what those giver numbers are starting next year. Okay? If you don't use giver numbers, don't pay any attention to this, just skip right past, right? All right, the accounts tab. If you're not worried about donations for this report, or if you do not own donations, feel free to skip right over this tab. You don't even have to click on it. But what this allows you to do is query in on a particular account. So if you want to see everyone that's given to general fund, you would double-click general fund or highlight it and use the arrows in the middle to select it. So once general fund or whatever account or accounts you want selected for the query are over here on the right, then it's only going to pull people that have affected these accounts based on what you put in back on your query builder tab. Okay? Otherwise, skip right past that. You also have the option for a campaign. So if you are a pledging church and you have a pledging campaign entered, you can select that campaign from the list, and that will allow you to then query just on people part of the campaign. All right, the last tab, and what I think is one of the most important tabs in reporting, this is your sort. I at least get one call a week where someone calls in and says, I have my report, I have everybody I need, but they are printing in some really weird order and I can't find anyone. It's probably because their sort isn't set to what they want. If you want an alphabetical sort, you want to choose name last first, which is a strictly alphabetical sort. You would want to choose that in sort field 1. You won't need anything in sort field 2 unless you have a bunch of people who have identical first and last names, which you probably don't, but maybe you might have a couple Bob Smiths. But typically, if you're doing an alphabetical sort in sort field 1, you don't need to worry about anything down here in sort field 2. Now, an example when sort field 2 would be helpful would be to sort field 1, hit the down arrow. If you're doing a zip code, oops, gosh, my mouse is like clicking weird. Okay, so if we're doing zip code, family main, sort field 2, I am going to do a name alphabetical sort because of everybody who has the same zip code. I want to see those people sorted alphabetically. So this is where that subsort would come into really helpful. Okay, so it's going to sort everybody by zip code first, then anybody with the same zip code, it's then going to do a subsort and put them in alpha order. Okay, something else to keep in mind, this sort screen is always going to come up with whatever you sorted with last. So if you're always going to be sorting in alphabetical order, or that's going to be your most common sort, when you come back in here the next time, it'll still be sorted by alphabetical order. So it stays that way unless you change it, okay? And then an easy thing to do too is when you're building your query, you just have to glance up to the sort tab and you can see right here that it's automatically, or it's going to be sorting by alphabetical. So it saves you a click from having to come in here and actually look. You can just see it right on the tab itself, okay? Last thing I want to point out, once you get a query built, if it's a query that you're going to use regularly, you can save it. So let's go ahead and do a query in here. I'm going to do, and you can type in there too. I like to type, I do not enjoy scrolling through the list of everything. So I type in what I'm looking for, choose it. I'm going to choose those 4 membership categories. I'm going to add it to my selection. I'm going to uncheck visitors, okay? I'm going to say okay, because that's my membership query that I need. Then I'm going to come down here. So I want someone that has a status code of 1, 2, 3, or 4, and they have given. So I'm going to come down here to number 3. I'm going to choose only those who gave, and I'm going to keep it for this year so far. All regardless of pledging, I'm not worried about pledging, and I'm going to hit add. Then I'm going to come here to my sort tab. Yep, alphabetical sort, that's what I want. Now, if I want to save this so I can easily come back into this report next month, I come down to the bottom. Next to save selections, I hit my little floppy disk to save, and I can put members with giving 2024. Say okay. So the next time I come in here, I open my reports. Down at the bottom, I hit the down arrow. I choose my members with giving, and boom, all of my criteria pops right back in here, and it remembers my sort as well. Now, if I want to change this, and let's say I want it to be members that gave to general fund, I could move that over to the right, and now I've changed my criteria. So when I hit the next button, the software is going to ask me, do I want to save my changes? So I can either say yes, and it'll override and resave it with this name, or I can say no, and I can come down here and hit my floppy, and I can save it to members that gave to general fund 2024 if I wanted to. Okay, so that save selection is really handy if you have a report that you need to run pretty regularly. Okay. And then once we hit next, step 2 is going to open, and this is where we get to pick our layout and we get to build our report, which we're going to talk about tomorrow. Okay. All right, that is everything that I needed to go over with you guys today.